Hello, everyone. Welcome on this lovely Thursday afternoon. Hopefully, you kids are getting ready to wrap up your schooling for the year, your formal learning for the year. Hopefully, you have lots of good learning opportunities this summer as well. Today is Giveaway Thursday, or this first giveaway that we're going to do with our live streams, and we're going to give away this BrainPad arcade at the end of our session. Let's try to get it so that the light doesn't reflect too poorly off of that. But the way this is going to work, and the way this works with this live stream tool, is that you need to post any comment today as we're moving along. Okay, so any comment will get you entered into the random drawing at the end of the session, and we'll do that when we get closer to the end. And then one of you will, I will direct message you and figure out the best way to get this to you. Please don't post your address or anything in the comments if you are the winner. I want to make sure that we do that appropriately. We're communicating with your parents the way that we need to do that to make everything safe for everyone. So just so that you know, today we are giving that away. The great thing about the BrainPad Arcade is anything that you're making in that MakeCode arcade version, you can download directly to this BrainPad. You can throw in a couple AA batteries, and you can take this along with you. It actually kind of looks just like a circuit board, and you almost might be afraid to touch it in some areas, just because you do actually see the circuits in the background as you're moving along, as you're playing with this. But it does have the buttons that match just like what we see in MakePad or the MakeCode Arcade Edition. So as we're moving along today we're going to make hill climb racing. So I'm not sure if any of you guys have played hill climb racing before. It's a pretty addictive mobile game where you're driving a car up and over these hills and different obstacles, and you have certain time frame by which you need to grab a gas can or something else to help you move along the way so that you don't time out. And there's obstacles as we move along that you can flip around. That game is super fun, and my kids like to play it. I sometimes get caught on it if we're going on long trips, trying to upgrade vehicles and move along with that. We'll make a simple version of that. Ours won't be as complex. But let's go ahead and get started with that. So I've pulled up MakeCode. If you click on or Google Microsoft MakeCode, it should bring you to this page. And we're going to remember we're using the arcade version of that. Yes, I like Hill Climb Racing too, the second one as well. I've played that too. And some of those games you almost have to limit yourself, or you get stuck in them for hours at a time. And so that's what we're going to try to do today. Here's our MakeCode environment. So today is going to be just a little bit different in that I have not, I've had some general ideas about this, but I've not actually done this before. And so I'm really looking for you guys to help me with some ideas as we move along. But I really want to focus on the thought process today of creating something new. And then hopefully we can be co-learners today. If you have ideas as we're going along on how something might work better, please comment those and we can try those out as we move along today. But I want to make sure that we are going through the process of coding in a way that we can apply to other games later on. So really, really focus on that today. So let's get started and create our background for our game. We want just a basic background color, and then we're going to create a tile map like we did last week for our game. So we'll click on scene and drag in set background color to, and I'm going to try to make this like a light blue, so simulate the sky. If you want to make yours maybe something like a space themed one, you could choose a different color. It's up to you. Set the background color. And then we're going to work on creating the tile map that's going to look like hills across the game. So that's in scene, set background image 2. Actually, that may be, may have to go back here and check that out a little bit differently. We actually need to set a tile map. So the background image would actually change the entire image of the background. So if you've created something that you want to have as a scene that's in the background, this is what you would use for that. So I'm going to drag that away for now. Again, this is me just trying things out today. So I am going to stumble today, but that's part of the process is when we're learning things is to try something and to quickly change it if we need to. It's down in scene and tiles. It says set tile map to. Okay, and so remember when we're creating a tile map, we want this to be wide on this game as opposed to being tall because we're going to scroll from the left and to the right on our game. So I'm going to look around my my light here and see if I can figure out change the dimensions in the bottom left hand corner. I'm going to make mine 100 by 16. So instead of 16 lock with the little lock symbol of 16, I'm going to make mine 100 by 16. And then I'm going to try to find a tile that works well for my hills. So I'm going to explore some of these tiles that are available, something that might work for a hill for my game. Looking in miscellaneous, there is some green blocks. I think that's what I'm going to use for the base. So across the bottom part of the screen, and then build that up to be some hills in certain places. So I'm going to choose this on gallery. Then I went to miscellaneous, and then all the way over to the right, there's a solid green one that I'm going to choose. And then I'm just going to paint the bottom level just so that we have a something to work from at the bottom. Now you may want to add, rivers or pits or hill or, ditches or something like that later on. We can do that. No problem by changing it later on. But this gives us a place to start out with. And then I'm going to use that and sort of start making these little small pixelated hills. They're not going to be as smooth as something like Hill Climb Racing because our graphics aren't going to be as good as what we could get on some of the newer mobile devices. But just building up some hills, and you guys probably don't know the reference, but some Bob Ross, little happy little hills up on our screen here. And go ahead and build some of those out. If you see something else in these tiles that you'd like to add to your tile map, go ahead and do that. We can see how they work. Today there's it's like some small grass here, just to give it some extra charm along the way. You know the reference. Good. Having lived here in Muncie, Indiana, where his studio is located, Mr. Bob Ross and his happy little trees. So glad I can make some kind of reference connection with you. And then we might actually find some trees in the miscellaneous as well. Again, these aren't necessarily anything. That's pretty cool. I haven't noticed that before, but if you make the tile map pieces larger, or you choose the larger squares at the top, it actually kind of creates them and kind of gives them a like a forest effect if we were going to create a forest. Okay, so I'm going to click done for now. Gives us a basic tile map that we're probably going to come back to later and modify, but that gives us something to start with. and it should be set up on our game once it refreshes completely. Maybe. All right. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to add our car to the game. So we're going to go into sprites. We're going to set my sprite, but we're going to rename my sprite to car, just so this variable is something that we can find later on, to sprite of kind player. So I'm going to choose one of the cars that are already in the gallery. That's up at the top. And if we scroll down to what's available for us, we can, I'm going to use the blue car this week. Again, facing to the right, because our vehicle is going to drive to the right of the screen once they get moving. And click done. All right. So we want the car to always be at the to at least start on the bottom of the screen. So the next thing we want to do is in Sprite Physics, we're going to set my sprite X to, and we're going to change my sprite to car. Should give you a program error at the bottom, which is fine. It just means it didn't know what variable this was. We don't want to set X to 0. We want to set the acceleration of Y to 400. It's going to simulate gravity for us and make us drop to the bottom of the screen. I know what we need to do with the tile maps in just a moment, but we'll get that set up here shortly. We'll get the wall set up so that we don't fall through the bottom of our tile map. And we want the camera to follow our vehicle during the game. That's one of the other important things we need to set up here initially. So scene, go down to camera, camera follows car. AY. Yes, AY. It should say AY acceleration Y. It's the, so if we go into physics, it says set my sprite and it has X right now, but you can choose something different in that drop down list. And it should say AY parentheses acceleration Y. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so what this made for us is that acceleration in the Y just means that it's going to force our vehicle to, in its native state, be accelerating in the Y direction, kind of like when we jump up, the gravity's bringing us back down in that Y direction, up and down. And so that's the same thing that we're going to simulate for our vehicle here. All right. So now we're at the bottom of the screen. We're going to start making our vehicle move, and then we'll start seeing if we can get that tile map to work properly so that we can go up and down the hills as we're moving along on this game. It's not going to be nearly as complex as hill climb racing, but you know, we're making it in 30 minutes as opposed to teams of developers working for years trying to make a game like that. So camera follows the sprite car. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our car move. Last time that, if you look at last week's video, if you want to go back and watch that, it should be on YouTube or on our Facebook page. But last week we made the car automatically drive forward whenever the game started. So we're not going to do that today. We're going to let the user control that with these, with the joystick right here. So we want to let them decide if they're moving forward or moving backwards. We can do that with the controller blocks. And this top one says move my sprite with buttons, and we've used that before, but I think we want to use, well, let's see. Yeah, let's move my sprite with buttons. We want to change my sprite to car. And we don't want any, with these buttons, we don't want any movement in the Y direction. All right, we'll program in a jump function later on, but we don't want them to worry about that. We just want left and right movement, this horizontal movement as we go along. So I'm going to put VY to 0. This means up and down will not occur with this joystick. Only left and right. What speed do you guys think we should use for this? Right now it's at 100. Do you think we should go a little bit faster, slower, based on what I've got here? Oh no, driving through the forest. All right, I think we should go a little bit faster. Faster is always better when we're playing games like this, right? Yeah, I think that might work. We'll see later on. We'll add a timer and we'll see if we've made it, if we can make it to the next gas can in enough. Should we make it so that when you turn, the car faces the other way? That's a really good question, and I know in Sprite or in Scratch we would have changed the costume of the sprite, right? We can change that pretty easily, and I haven't tried it before in MakeCode, but maybe that's something to keep in mind. Once we get this basic functionality working, we can definitely see if we can make it turn the other direction, because I did notice that there was a car that was facing the same car facing the other direction when we check that out. But that's a really good question. Yeah, that would be cool. So we'll get to that here shortly. Let's get this basic functionality, make sure that we're going over the hills, get the gas cans in place, and then we'll see if we can do some things to make it look a little bit nicer. Okay, so let's give our car the ability to jump. So I'm going to go into controller, on A button pressed. I'll let them jump with the A button right now. Maybe another thing that we could make eventually on a game like this would be like a boost. If they ran across something to get a boost for a little bit of time, we could give them let the other button do that. But I'm gonna, on the A button, we're going to go to sprites and set. We're going to bring over the set my sprite X again. We're going to change this to car. We're going to change X to velocity in the Y direction, and that to minus 125. All right, so the great thing about MakeCode is that if we just tell it to go up a little bit, I'm going to change it to 200. I think it wasn't jumping high enough. Maybe that's too high, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what it looks like when we finish it. The great thing about MakeCode is this. So this acceleration in the Y direction is still affecting our car. If we just do this simple velocity in the Y direction once, then the acceleration in the Y direction from the gravity is still going to affect it. And so we get this really simple gravity and jumping effect that's much harder to program in other tools. Like that would be something pretty difficult to program in Scratch relative to what it is in MakeCode. Okay, So what we're going to do is we're going to edit this tile map again, because one of the things that we need to do with our, and we are going to fix this as well. We can keep hitting that and it will keep flying. We're going to make sure that we're on the bottom before we let them jump. But absolutely, we can do that. Really glad that you're trying stuff out as we go along, because that's the whole fun of coding, in my opinion, is that we can just try, see what happens, and then modify it quickly if it's not exactly what we want. Okay, so let's go open back up the tile map up here where it says set tile map 2. I'm going to click on that again, open up my large tile map. Okay, and so tile maps, one of the things that we can do to them to make them, make our characters be able to interact with the tile maps, is we create what's called walls. And so this button here, I don't think I can zoom in a whole lot on it for you, maybe. All right, this button just above where you select something from the gallery is the wall button. And what we have to do with the wall button is basically color everything on the bottom that the vehicle might be touching is the bottom of the screen. It's going to make it look red on this, and that's fine. It won't look red on your game. It just means that we've selected these things to be, but you probably would never hit the, maybe it would hit the forest, but I'm just going to paint everything on the bottom to be this red color. All right, and then we're going to decide on a finish line, what that's going to look like. So very similar to last week's, we're going to just make it a little bit more advanced. And then I'm going to find, I'm going to use this, it looks like a brick wall tile map, because I just saw that it was actually just sitting there when I opened it up. I'm going to use this as a finish line. I don't want to slam into the brick wall, but that's what's happening here at the end. All right, I'm going to click done. Well, I think I got into a mode on my game. It's showing me some different views. Okay. Yep, we can wait up. Is there anything specific you want to be able to see? And I'll bring that back. I can bring the tile map back up to let you finish mapping your tile map. I think I've zoomed in so much on the web browser that it made that it gave me a different view. And I've hidden my arcade game over here. All right, there we go. Now we can see, now that we've created it as a wall, our vehicle interacts with it as though it were something to impede its progress, right? Just like a wall would be if you were in a room and you were trying to get out. Now we have something like this. All right, so next thing we're going to do is I'm going to try to add these gas cans along the way, so that as we move along, we have to get to a certain point so that our vehicle can keep going. So the way that Hill Climb Racing, and you guys have obviously played it, you said, but the timer will start if we don't get to the, it doesn't really call it a timer in the game. It just shows your fuel gauge kind of dropping. And then once it hits empty, you're done. Or if you flip over and crash, you're done. But we're going to try to simulate that with a timer. We're going to create a timer, and we have to get to the next checkpoint essentially before the timer runs out. And if we don't, we will lose the game. I'm going to go into our tile map again. And on the tile map, I'm going to add a few things along the way that are going to simulate the gas cans. So I thought about creating a sprite that was a gas can and just randomly placing them along the bottom. The only problem is if you're randomly placing them across the bottom, then there's a chance that all of them will end up at this end, and then you definitely won't be able to beat the game because you won't be able to make it the rest of the way. And we want to make sure that when we're designing a game, it can be difficult. It shouldn't be impossible, though, because someone would want to come back and play it again if it wasn't even possible to beat your game. And so I'm going to use something in the tile map so that I can actually place them where that I want them to be on this level. And the great thing is you can create more advanced levels later on that make it more difficult. But I'm going to check these tiles and see if I can find something that actually looks good, that looks like it could be used as a gas can or a checkpoint. I'm looking around my light that's on my desk a little bit. That kind of looks cool, those orbs along the way. Treasure chest. Keep that in mind. You guys, if you find one that you think looks really cool, let me know. You like the red? Yeah, you like the red ball? I think I do too. All right, let's go to that. Back in the dungeon. So go to dungeon, and there's this little red ball. So I'm going to take it and place it at different points in the map. Make sure that you don't put it in the where you've created the walls in the tile map, though. I have an suspicion that your car wouldn't let you overlap with it if it's a wall, and we need to see if you're overlapping it in order to make it function the way that we need it to in the game. So overlap. I'm going to place these at different parts of the game. Maybe this one's a little bit back, just so that you can't like jump over the end. You actually have to go down and grab this one before you get to go forward. So that's what mine looks like. You can space yours out the way that you want it to. And actually, I've never seen this. You can show walls or not show walls. Pretty cool at the top. So if you don't want to see those walls, if you want it to see the actual color that you're going to be playing in the game, you can toggle this at the top of the screen. Done. I think I've learned more today trying things out on my own than actually following things previously. So, all right, so there's one. Don't have anything working with it yet. We haven't programmed it yet, but there's another one. We're still jumping all the way. All right. Let's fix the multiple jump thing. We don't want to be able to fly. Maybe you do, but we're going to make sure that we're not flying on the screen. So the way that we do that is we're going to wrap a conditional statement around this set car velocity before we're able to jump in here. So I'm going to scroll in. Should be in logic. If true, then. And I'm going to drag that and put it around the set car velocity. Now, right now, it's going to let you do the same thing, because really this is saying if true, and true is true. And so it will always let you do that. So we have to put a condition in here that could be true or could not be true. And the condition that we want to check, we want to see if our car is touching the bottom of the screen. All right, so let's see if we can figure out how to do that. I know there's something that says if my car is hitting a wall that's on the bottom, I need to find exactly where that's at. I'm just going to search hitting. The search functionality in MakeCode is actually really, really good. So at the top, above all the other blocks, I just typed in the word hitting. And then this very top thing that came back says, is my sprite hitting a wall? And that's the one I want to drag over and put it inside of the if statement. So in game, maybe scene. Looks like the color of a scene, but maybe I'm just going over it too quickly. But I'm going to change my sprite to car hitting wall on the bottom.
There's something on YouTube that I can watch, but it doesn't say that much. It doesn't say any bad news.
So my son's coming in and asking if he can watch something on YouTube. Sorry about that. So is car hitting the wall that's the bottom, then allow them to jump up. If they're not, then they can't jump up anymore. So as it's in the air, it's not, even if I keep pressing it, since I'm not touching the bottom, it's not going to let me jump. So that should fix that for you. So that you're not flying. I know some of you may want to fly, but that's not going to happen on this one. Okay, so we're gonna program in some overlaps, make sure that we get this timer going. I want to make sure that we get that program definitely today before we end today's session. So timer. I think that's in game. That's the game over. Maybe it's in scene. I'm gonna search for timer. Start countdown. It's actually called countdown instead of info. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yes, it's in the info section. That's where we have our life and our score and our high score and all that along the way. So I want to start a countdown, and I want that to happen in the on start. So as soon as we start the game, we're going to have a countdown timer going. And I want to see if we can modify that. So along the way, we can make sure that the timer gets updated back to 10 whenever we overlap one of... Oh, I didn't make it in time. I want to make sure that when we overlap one of those tiles, then we update the countdown timer back to 10. So the way that we're going to check to see if we're touching one of the tile maps, it's in scene as well. Stop. Okay. Scene. And then if we go down in scene where the tile section is, and this second one that says on sprite of kind player overlaps then it lets you choose the overlap. And it should have all of the tiles that you've used throughout building your tile map. Absolutely. MakeCode has a lot of really cool things, and we're just kind of scratching the surface on what you can do with that. We used it with Minecraft education a week or so ago, and that was actually really cool to program Minecraft with MakeCode. But side point there, but it is pretty cool. So on sprite of kind player overlaps this red ball at location. That's saying if it happens at a certain location, let's stop my game. I don't want it to count down and keep knocking that out. On sprite of kind player overlaps this red ball at location. Let's see if there's anything in info to update that timer. It says start countdown. I'm not sure if that will update it, but I'm going to try it just to see what happens. So if my sprite, which is a player, because remember we set my car to kind player here, overlaps that little red orb, then it's gonna, let's see if it resets the timer or if it just, if it starts a new one. There we go. That's what we want. All right. All right, some basic functionality there. Let's go ahead and program quickly the game end. If we make it to the wall, we need the same on sprite of kind player from the scene. On sprite of kind player overlaps this finish wall that you have. And if that's the case, then we are going to go to info, or actually game over win. Toggle that to win. Yes, make it disappear after we touch it. Yeah, let's see if we could do that next, because I agree that if we could just let our vehicle set on that little orb, and we would have unlimited time, right? Because it keeps resetting it to 0 or back to 10. So I want to make sure it disappears after we touch that. I'm not really sure how we can make pieces of the tile disappear, but so I'm looking in, I searched for tile, and I'm going to see if I can set. So I dragged over, it says set, and it has this little blank, which means nothing, which means it's going to be transparent at, and I'm going to bring location and put it in here. All right, so this is, yeah, we'll see if this works. So what is basically happening, it says on, if this sprite of kind player overlaps the orb at a certain location, reset the countdown timer, and then set the location to be this blank, which is nothing. We'll see if that works. We won't know until we try. Oh, yep, it's gone. So now I can't go back over it again. And it's completely gone when that happens. All right, so now that I know that it works, we can go back and make sure that we're all on the same page. So underneath the start countdown timer, it's in scene. And it's down close to the bottom of tiles. It's the second to the last one. It says set, and then it has a drop down and it has a location. I dragged it underneath of start countdown, 10 seconds. I chose the first tile map, which is a transparency 16, it looks like. So basically just makes it transparent. And then instead of the location that was there, I grabbed this location, it's a function variable at the top, and dragged it and put it in this spot. Because we have multiple versions of this tile on our screen. So I want to grab the one that's at this location that I'm overlapping. So that's why I chose that one. All right. So now as we're going along, and I win. All right, really quick and dirty version of hill climb racing. Let's see if we can figure out how to make that car turn, because I know that's a question that was asked earlier. Can we make the car look like it's going in the other direction instead of reversing? Maybe we can, maybe we can't. We'll try it here just quickly. And if you guys have any ideas, or if you get it working on your end, share it with me. We can all learn from each other as we're going through this today. So set car to sprite of kind player. Move car with buttons. VX. I'm gonna go controller. Oh, multiplayer functions. I haven't tried those before. That looks like it would be interesting. Let's see. Okay, so what I did is I went to controller, and I'm going to drag this on A button pressed. And I'm going to change it from A button to left button pressed. Finish line like the castle in Super Mario. That's exactly right. The flagpole at the end before the castle. You hit the... I like the references to the classic video games. I like the new video games too, but definitely like some older games. So on left button pressed. I may program the movement real quick if I can, but I'm going to see if I can change the sprite now. That's what I want to try to do. So sprite says you can change my sprites. Let's see if it has anything besides X. Left, right, bottom. All right. So I'm going to try this. Well, change my sprite. I don't think it will. I don't think it does what I want it to do. No. Okay. I'm going to find something else with the sprite. What I'm trying to do is change the costume with a sprite. Maybe this top one. Set my sustain screen to bounce off wall. Clear effects. Overlaps. Life cycle. Image. Oh, set my sprite image to. So at the very bottom, on left button pressed, set my sprite or set car image to. I'm going to choose the gallery and go down and find the blue car that's facing to the left. Done. And then I'm going to drag over. Actually, you can duplicate these instead of finding that on button pressed again and finding everything. So I'm going to duplicate this entire section. I right click with my mouse, duplicate. I'm going to change this to on right button pressed, set the car image to, and then choose the one facing to the right. So initially we are this one facing to the right, left button press, switch to this one. So this is what's making us move, this block here that says move car with buttons VX. So it's taking care of our movement, but we also added some functionality that says if it's pressed, if the left button's pressed, change the images. And so that's all that this section, it looks like it's handling. There it is. It's working. Nice suggestion. All right, guys, working for you, working the way that you want it to, for your hill climb racing version in MakeCode. Thanks so much for your suggestions today. I'm going to see if I can pull up our random giveaway winner. Let me know if you have any questions real quick as I'm working through this, because I want to make sure that we all have created something like this, created our game the way that we want it to. But I'm going to work in the background here, trying to pull up the screen for the giveaway to make sure that we can do that. Looks like those of you that are joining have definitely commented, so should be entered in the giveaway tool. All right. So the tool that we're using to live stream this is called StreamYard. Looks like we've got 2 entries. So you guys have a 50-50 chance of winning the giveaway. I'm going to go ahead and I think you click this button, draw. And what it's going to do is it's going to go through a random process and pick one of you as the winner. So remember, if you are chosen as the winner of this brain pad, then congratulations. Be glad to get that to you. Don't put your address in the comments or anything. I will reach out with private chat and let you know how to contact me, so that I can touch base with your parents too. We can either have it somewhere where you can pick it up, or we can ship that to you to make sure that everyone's comfortable with the process. But I'm going to go ahead and click draw and see who wins our BrainPad Arcade. And it's scrolling through. It's a wheel. Let's see what happens. All right. So we have a winner. I know, Shannon, that's your son that's on the Facebook page. So sorry, Mr. Monocle, this time it didn't work out for you, but congratulations. We will get this BrainPad Arcade to you. TechWise will actually reach out via our Facebook and connect with you directly to get this BrainPad Arcade to you. Yeah. If you have any ideas for what you'd like to continue learning this summer, please reach out to us. I am open to suggestions. We next week is going to be more of a pre-recorded video. I won't be able to be live next week, but following that, I want to make sure that what we're doing is something that you're interested in learning. And so, if you want to use Scratch, if you want to use MakeCode, if you know some other tool that we can try out, then we would definitely try that. Do I know where? Yes, we will share a link to these to be able to get one of these BrainPad Arcades, and we'll let you know about that, so that you can get one as well, to have one of those to be able to save your game. But if you want to try something, or if there's anything else that you want to learn about, we can go to Scratch and MakeCode all year and probably still haven't touched the surface of what these tools are capable of. So really appreciate you guys tuning in and wanting to learn something new about these tools. And let me show you real quick while I've got it, just so that you know about getting the BrainPads. If you click on download at the bottom, just to the right of that, it says choose hardware. BrainPad Arcade is at the top. You click on that, they've got some places to go and to that's actually choosing the hardware. You can learn more, and it will take you to a page where they have some of those. If you can't find it quickly there, reach out to me, and I want to make sure that you are able to get that as well. Yeah. So if you have any suggestions, let me know on what we want to cover next. Really glad you guys are tuning in. I'm excited to see what you can create in the future, and really glad you're joining us for our Thursday live stream. So thanks, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.